Feeling self-conscious is something that happens to all survivors that have visible scars. I can remember the first time I went to the beach, which was maybe about 6, 8 months, after my injury. And of course, my face was bright red because it was all scabby with second-degree burns. So I had on a tennis hat. I had on my Job's arms up to here. I had my tube tennis socks on up to my knees. I had a towel over my shoulders. I had a handkerchief under my hat. I mean, people were staring at me, walking on the beach saying, "Who is this guy? He looks so different." But I had to cover up. I wanted to go to the beach and feel somewhat normal. And so after time, I was able to take off, the garments. And I think as you move towards the acceptance stage of your injury, it becomes easier to take off the clothing. And you learn that if someone's not going to be my friend because I'm scarred on the outside, then maybe they're not a friend of mine, to begin with. So you kind of learn that. I mean, I've had in business gone on appointments for 10, 15 years with a client, and I'll show up one day in a short sleeve shirt, and the client will say, "My God, what happened to your arms? I never noticed they were burned." And I've been seeing these people for 15 years, and it's because I don't draw attention to my scars and my injury. I don't hide within my shield and keep my eyes and head down like a lot of survivors do. You have to look people straight in the face, answer their questions, because the common one is, "What happened to you, mister?" And kids are great because the kids will come up and ask that. But the adults are the problem. They're the ones that stare and point in restaurants. We hear all of the stories in our support group. So I think part of our job as a survivor is to educate the public on what our scars are. If someone is genuinely looking at you and saying, "Gee, what happened to you?" You say, "Gee, I was in a house fire. I was badly burned and I was in the hospital a long time, but I'm doing okay. Thank you for being curious." Because a lot of times they are curious. They want to know what it is if they've never seen, a horrific scar. And it's therapeutic to tell your story. I think it's very important for survivors to be able, in 10 or 20 seconds, be able to tell their story. Because if your scars are visible, you're going to get the question. My scars never kept me from exercising. I mean, to me, they were personal. They were me. Very hard to look at, in the beginning, because scarring is permanent. It never goes away. And I tell survivors, your scars never look as bad as they do in the beginning. The first few months after an injury, they're purple, they're ugly, they're oozing, they're flaky, they're stiff, right? They look awful. But in time, as the healing goes on, the original color of the skin comes back, and you have to learn to live with your scars. And I think that's why it's important to accept your scars. Some people might let their scars define who they are, and it's amazing that after they go through some experiences, they realize that the scars have nothing to do with it. In many relationships, I've met burn survivors who are horrifically burned, and I've attended weddings where the husband's the most handsome guy in the world, and here he meets his wife at the altar who is horrific facial burns, plane survivor, crash survivor, horrifically burned, and you say, what does he see in her? She's so horrifically scarred. And then you realize that it's not what she looks like on the outside that the person fell in love with. It's who she is on the inside. Someone who's loving and warm and compassionate and understanding, and someone who communicates, someone who's a good provider, someone who loves his children, who's recognized in the community. Those are the qualities in people that we fall in love with. The scars are secondary. They really are. It has no effect in my current relationship. I went through a terrible divorce and remarried, and I've been married for 35 years, and my scars have never been an issue to my wife, Joanne. It hasn't affected intimacy at all because she loves me as a person, not if I have a lot of scars on my arms and body.